TDU Solar Crown. What the hell can I say about this? This has to be one of the hardest games I've ever had to review. Genuinely. Ignore my dog in the background. Because if someone asks me, what is TDU's Solar Crown? All I can say is that it feels like just a typical, I don't know what happened there, a typical run-of-the-mill open-world driving game. And that's it. That's genuinely it. Because it doesn't feel like it's really focused on an idea. It's sort of like this identity crisis of what the hell is it trying to be, but with an 80 quid price tag attached to it. A lot of the marketing for it was the whole idea of the streets versus the shop. So you pick your clan and you do clan stuff to try and win with your clan. Right, okay, so, the clubs in TDU2 had a sort of a similar thing. You joined a club, you wanted to donate to your club so you can help level up. You do events to also help level up, and blah blah blah. And that was a really good idea. And this, it feels like it's trying to do that. And then absolutely just throwing it out the window. Because all the streets and the shop thing does, making sure that I'm not, yeah, we're fine. All the streets and the shop thing does is you get a HQ, and if you win these little daily challenge bollocks, you get 50k. And that's all you do with the streets versus... That's it. I mean, it has to be one of the most pointless things I think I've ever experienced. Considering as well how the map's been split down, this is a lot more intricate, shall we say, compared to TD1 and TDU2, where that was either... Well, TDU2, TD1 especially, I don't even think that the map was really split. But in TDU2, you had... In Ibiza, it was Area 1 and Area 2. And then in Oahu, it was Area 1, 2, 3, and 4. And, that was just a split. But in this, as you can see, it's split down a hell of a lot more. So I was sort of expecting the PvP aspect, shall we say, or this entire point of the streets versus the shop, is that you are trying to, have the most territory of Hong Kong Island. It's sort of like this Need for Speed Carbon type of ordeal. I think that would have been brilliant if, you had this clan battle stuff, which was the PvP, and it was the streets versus the shops. And you had to, you do a bunch of races and you're claiming all the territory, and then at the end of the week, whoever owns the most territory, is declared the winner, and they get, I don't know, some sort of prize, like 300 grand. Or, it'd sort of be, okay, the streets hold about 6 spaces, and then the shops own about, I don't know, however many, 4 or 5. So each space you own is about worth, I don't know, 50k. Something like that, I think, would have been an absolutely brilliant idea if you're trying to go down that route. But it doesn't. And it's just utterly pointless. The theming of it as well. Solar Crown. Is directly as a follow-up from TDU2 Solar Crown. But that was a championship. To become the champ, you're doing championships scattered around the 2 islands in the different car categories to be declared the champion. In this, it's nothing. It's pointless. It's just trying to... It almost feels like it's just trying to tack on from people. Oh, I remember the Solar Crown. Yeah, that was the TDU2 thing. Oh, yes, we love that. And they've really just bastardized it into nothing. And that's the biggest disappointment of it, is that this game just feels like a bunch of nothing. Because it doesn't even feel like a good TDU. We'll discuss that in a minute. So, I've talked enough about it. Let's talk about everything else. We'll kick off with the launch of the game. Probably the worst aspect this game has ever had to go through. This should never have launched in the state it was in. Because, good Christ, this was terrible. You hear all of the horror stories about the early access, I was one of the fortunate ones that was actually able to play the early access. My only issue was that a custom controller preset breaks the menus if I am in the avatar mode. It completely breaks it because my confirm refuses to work. So, yeah, and to those curious who did see that stream, no, it still doesn't work. 2 months later, and my custom control scheme still breaks it. Even though it is a completely different option. If I can find it, here we go. It is a completely different option to have confirm within avatar mode. There you go. Navigation. Confirm is A. And yet it just doesn't work. And I can't be asked to see if I can try and make it to work. So now I've got 2 controller schemes. Avatar mode and driver mode. Yeah. So, no, the launch of this game should never have happened. And the fact that the compensation we're not going to get until basically Christmas Eve, and it's just an off-roading Porsche, yeah, I'm sorry, no, that compensation's not enough. Considering we've got to wait another 30 odd days, nah, they are absolutely taking the piss, really are. Right, so now that that's out the way, the major doom and gloom, let's talk about the game now. So, as you can see here, I'm just happily sat by the Soul Hotel in the Lotus Exige Cup. A car I actually really do like. I love the Exige Cup, and it's a good thing to see that this is one of the cars they got in. As well as you can see that my hazard lights have automatically came on because I've been parked idle for a little while. Again, that was not a thing in TDU1 or 2, and a lot of games still don't even have working indicators. So if sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit. Have a cup of tea. Yeah, so a lot of games don't even have working indicators, and yet this has working hazard lights. Not only that, if we head over to the Alpine, the A110 here, let's get... Ooh, is it started up? Oh, there we go. Let's get this started up, and then, as you can see, it even has the proper animations. It has the rolling indicators on this vehicle. That's absolutely fantastic and a good little bit of attention to detail. Not only that, I will swap back in the Lotus because it has something else that I do want to show off. If we go into interior mode and let's just turn on the hazard ourselves, or the indicator, there you go. It actually, you can actually hear the clicking. And the best part is, if we have a look at the hood, if you're just using the indicators, it just flashes the one and flashes green. But if you're using the hazards, it flashes amber. I get a nice little attention to detail. So we've got that. Obviously, you can turn on and off the headlights manually. You've got the windshield wipers, if I can do it properly. No, I can't. Still haven't been able... There we go. So, the fact that obviously in the rain that comes on, but you can even turn it off if you feel like it. And it's a little bit animated. You can obviously roll up and roll down the windows. Not only that, on a lot of convertibles, as you should expect, you can and it does affect the sound as well, taking on and off the roof, and certain cars, you can even pop up and pop down the spoiler. Actually, the Delta would be a perfect example for this. There you go. It actually does properly function. So that there is good little attention to detail, especially, as you can see the hood, they've actually got if the lights come on, they properly flash up. Yeah. I can't even see the indicator. No, it's fine. There we go. Yeah, so it's good to see that we've got these little bits of details there. Not only that, well, actually, if we have a look at my character, admittedly it looks a little bit hideous. When you accelerate, he then goes into concentration mode. He basically, as people would say, locks in. So, that's a nice little attention detail. It's like, GTA 5, when you hit over a speed limit. Hit over a certain speed and your character goes angry because they're concentrating. I like how this does the exact same. One more thing, will this be a perfect car? I think I could just about see it, yeah. Now, of course, the gearbox, obviously manual gears, sorry, oops, I'm too busy focusing on looking at the handbrake. Oh, crap, I've rolled it. Right, okay, as you can see, if you change up and change down the gears, obviously it's not as well animated as other games. It sort of acts a lot more just like a sequential gearbox. Just making sure that I'm still in party chat, and I'm beaching the car a lot. Here we go. So yeah, it just acts like it's a normal sequential gearbox, not doing anything. But if well, as you can see there, actually, no, I'll go back. So I'm just stopped. My character is actually on the handbrake, and you can see him properly lift it up and put it down. That is a nice little attention to detail that a lot of games don't even do. So the fact that this has it is absolutely brilliant. Oh, my headlights haven't came on. I mean, fair enough, you can turn them on or leave them off if you so please. So I do like that. And the clock, obviously, it's working properly, it's reflecting the in-game time. So again, there's nice little attention to details, and some even surpassing what TDU 1 and 2 had. You know, as you can hear, my gearbox is going up. I have modified it. I've given it, I think it's a long range gearbox. Because this game actually does have proper tuning in it. For the first time, it has proper tuning. So if we head over to here, there you go. So you've got different driving modes. Or, if you really want to, you can create a new one. Use one of these as a basis. So if we go circuit, then you could go to custom, and there you go. You know, so you've got little presets, or you could do it however the hell you see fit. I'd like that a lot. You know, it's, you know, considering, you know, the previous two don't, it shows that they are going a little bit further with the detailing compared to the previous two installments. So they are definitely trying to push the game into a more more competitive, shall we say, with Forza and the Crew and Need for Speed, which is great. Here's another annoying thing as well. As you can see there, going on about back to details, both the i8 and the 918 have a proper hybrid system. Now, if I can remember the buttons, can't be bothered to, so let's just swap controls. As you can see, if I just start accelerating, you can see the little bar actually starts to diminish, and if I brake, it recharges. So they've got a proper working hybrid system. Not a lot of games do, and that's the frustrating thing. That's the really frustrating thing, is that they're doing the right things, but not enough of the right things. Because, you know, for ages I've wanted another game, another open world driving game that I could really play that wasn't just them. You know, there is a market for more competition, and TDU Solar Crown could have perfectly been in that market. But as I'm going to discuss later on, it just doesn't quite hit the mark. It really doesn't. But let's, as we're driving around, let's talk about the handling physics. One of the really important things to get right. And TDU 2's was, let's face it, passable. At best. In some of the rear-wheel drive cars, it was near enough undrivable. Especially if you had a little bit of a slide. If you had a slide in that game, good luck trying to save it, because you just aren't. Drifting in that game was bloody awful. TDU 1, it was a lot better. In this, it's a hell of a lot of fun. It really is a fantastic time. I love just messing around in free roam with like a good powered rear-wheel drive car. Like this Lotus, for instance, something like this. You know, it is absolute just a hell of a time to just let the back end kick out and just drift around. You can seriously drift, and it is a hell of a lot of fun. Admittedly, this isn't really the best car to try and drift. Lotuses aren't really built for it, but you know, the point remains. I really do like this handling style, this handling physics. For the most part, this is quite fun. The four-wheel drive cars are also pretty good, but what's great about it is that the cars, as usual, they don't feel the same. They sort of feel like their own unique thing, which is very, very nice indeed. So the handling is okay. The physics, though, especially when landing the jumps, the suspension physics is kind of all over the place. Landing jumps in this game is, just like TDU2, is pretty damn awful. Now, there's one event actually on the map. Let me show you. It was, bloody hell, how did I get down here? This event here, right, flight risk, because it's got this jump that's there. Now, you can take that jump as perfectly as you like, and the car can be off the jump as flat as you want. And yet, you'll just land the jump and whoop, you've pinged off 50 feet into the air. And you've rolled. Yeah, the landing physics is an absolute weak point of this game. It is woeful when it comes to landing jumps. It seriously needed a lot more time with that. I mean, you know, it's not like it's a completely unique thing that only this game has this landing the jumps issue, but it is near enough every single time you land a half decent jump. So some of the off-roading routes is just awful because of the landing physics. My dog's having a little bit of fun. The other thing as well, which kind of ties into the balance of the game. Now, I'm sure a lot of people already know that the balancing in this is absolutely dreadful. Essentially, all you do is that you pick a four-wheel drive car, and there you go, that's it. You just pick a four-wheel drive car. Because the game rains a lot. A lot of the tracks, a lot of the events are in the rain. And obviously, as you'd expect, four-wheel drive cars do have an advantage in, you know, in more inclement weather conditions. That's completely fine. But when a hell of a lot of them is just the rain, and especially when you see the AIs driving around, racing around, yeah, you realise just how bad the cars sort of feel, rear-wheel drive ones, in the rain. It is awful in terms of competition. It really, really is terrible in that regards. Now, because I've talked about the driving, let's talk about the other important thing for Test Drive, the map. Okay, sure, it is not an incredibly big map. We knew that when they announced that it was Hong Kong Island, and you know, people already were getting how big the island was going to be. So, you know, it's not a big map compared to the previous two, especially TDU2 having two islands. But having a big map is not always cut and dry. You also need to have a nice varied map in terms of like the roads, the environment especially. Otherwise it feels like it's just too much of the same, and it can get quite boring with that. This map I like a lot. I really do like this map. It's not my favourite. I do think Oahu is better, but I'm not going to sit here and just completely discredit this map. I really do like this island. Hong Kong Island is a good little fun place to mess around. You know, you've got all these like sort of mountainy, twisty back roads here. Obviously, a good challenging off-road section. Then you've got your sort of your motorway that loops around the island, and then you've got, you know, sort of probably the bit where everyone does their top speed runs. Actually, really, I think it's, but you get the point. You know, you've got your main city at the top bit of the map. There's someone that's over there, and then you've got your more twisty stuff in like the section, in like the middle part of the map, and then you've got a few more sort of windy, twisty stuff around the outskirts, which is completely fine enough. I quite like this map a lot, and it's also got like a little go-karty track thing down there, and as well a little racetrack that's up here. So it's nice that they've got that going for it as well, with the proper oval, in case you're into that type of stuff. So yeah, the map's fine, the handling is majoritively fine, it's got a little bit of quirks here and there. And now, let's move on to the cars. The car list, the upgrading. Now this is where other parts of the issues show. This car list is not good. I'm sorry to report, but this car list is pretty bad, if you ask me. For a number of reasons. First things first is that there's barely anything new here compared to what we had in something like the older test drives. Yeah, sure. You know, it's nice to see the fact that we are still getting a good amount of cars out in the previous game. That's completely fine, but there's not enough new here, which adds another problem. Yeah, sure. Some of them is more just an update more than anything. Sorry, I've got a little bit of illness at the minute. You've got a couple of more updated Mustangs, which is, fine enough. That's all good, no worries. If we head over to German cars, we've got a more updated R8. The SLK Black is, here. Sorry, the SLK 55. Sorry, the SL Black is actually in this. There you go. AMG GTR and stuff like the S. Actually, no, we've got the SLS as well. So there is a few updates here, which is very nice indeed. But the problem is that it doesn't feel like it's got anything unique in it. It's all sort of just rudimentary and expected out of something like this. The classic cars, I mean, it's nice to say we've got a classic 911 and we've got the Alpine A110. Very nice to see. But when you have a look around, there's not enough new here. I mean, we've got a GT40 Mark 1, that's very cool to see. And like I said, we've got the Evora GT430 and the Exige Cup, two cars I like a lot. I'm happy to see them. But it's just... it doesn't really have a lot going for it that other games don't already have and do better. Like TDU1's car list, especially for time, was absolutely phenomenal. It blows this out the water by a good amount. Because a lot of the other issue with it is that this car list doesn't really... It's fallen in the same old trap of it's got a lot of supercars. And that's about it. It's not a lot of, your more ordinary vehicles, which is a constant thing. Yeah, sure, you've got a few here, and you've got your more sort of cars you might expect a little bit more, shall we say, something, like the Emira. But, no, it's just a downgrade overall, especially in the Asian dealership. Sure, Test Drive was never really big with the Asian vehicles. I mean, TD1, I think the R34 was a DLC vehicle, but if you didn't have that, then you essentially had the 350Z, or the Nismo 350Z. And that was it. I think I had Honda bikes, something like I can't remember. In TD2, you pretty much then had the R35, the 370Z, and the Subaru Impreza. And then the DLC added a slightly different, a 370Z that was painted yellow. Yeah, so the Japanese car's never been a big market, but, I mean, come on. Now, you should be able to add a lot more Asian vehicles than just 3. I mean, I've got to give them credit for the fact that the W Motors is not the Lykan Hypersport. I think it's the, however you pronounce it, Fenrir. I think that's how it's pronounced anyway. I've got to give them credit. It's not just the Lykan Hypersport. But no, it's just not. This car list is not enough, especially when you have a look at these dealers. This vast, open, expansive dealerships that feel empty. Especially when you could just see here. I mean, we've got R35 over there, R35 over there, R35 over there, R35 over there. In fact, in this one shot here, I can have all 3 Lykans. If I wiggle back enough, you might just be able to see the glimpse of the other R35. In fact, there you go. I can have all 4 R35s in one shot. Yeah, I mean, I do hope that they add more vehicles in this and they just shift some of these other vehicles out. Because this seriously... No, it needs improving. Yeah, no, this isn't enough. But when it comes to actually buying the vehicles, it then does again feel like TDU. If we head over to this this R35, ignore that. We've got, you can have all your different colour combos, and then you can have your interior colour, and then, your rim colour, and things like that. Not only that, you can test drive, but if you really want to, you can roll down the window, open the doors, sit in, have a beat with the horn, There you go. And also start the engine. So you can rev it from within here. Yeah, so I like how they still have all of that stuff that was in the previous TDUs. But yeah, it's just, this is what I mean. It's like they're doing the right stuff, but they're not doing enough of it. And some of the, shall we say, questionable stuff is on show really loudly. I mean, just these dealerships, it works against itself because of the small car list. I mean, we head over to the Ferrari and the Lamborghini dealership here. It's like, ooh, look, it's all nice and red. Very cool. And you've got some photos of like the Ferraris scattered all over the place. But, you've got like a nice little bar area. But I don't know. It doesn't work for me. And there you go, you can watch them two have a conversation if you really want. Hello, look, it's another person. Yeah, just, It feels empty. It really does feel empty. And yeah, it's not good enough. This really isn't good enough. Now, we talk about the car sounds themselves, and then I will move on to probably the balancing and the pricing a little bit more. The car sounds. Some are fine. Others, not so much. I mean, this Lotus here, for instance, let me be quiet for you. It's not too bad. It sounds perfectly, it's serviceable. Okay, it's not the absolute groundbreaking thing, but it sounds pretty alright. I also, by the way, I want to point out, because I've got the DLC, obviously I've got the R8 Spider. Yeah, this game has 5 Audi R8s of the exact same thing, pretty much. Is it? You've got 3 in there, and then you've got 1 up here. There you go. And then you've got the DLC. Yeah, there's too many R8s. There's 5. It's rivaling the Crew for special editions of one vehicle. And so, remember the Lotus? That wasn't too bad. Yeah, prepare to be disappointed, because the 918... Yeah, that's shocking. That's absolutely terrible. It really is. But now we get on to the car pricing. This is... whoa dear. Now, I'm completely fine with having to spend a good amount of time grinding up the money and things like that so that I can add more cars to my collection. It's a very hard balance to try and get right, because you either go sort of down the Forza route, or if you get a hell of a lot of supercars within an hour of playing, or, you can sort of take the more, sort of the Gran Turismo route. I know that's another extreme, but with, like, some of the older interpretations of the currency, shall we say, where it could take you, where it was like, the McLaren F1 was like 200 quid worth of car. Okay, that's another extreme, but it's a very hard balance to get right. TG1 did this really well in terms of its progression. Because, sort of the earlier, easier events, you didn't get that much money, but they were a lot shorter, so on and so forth. And as you were progressing into the game, the events, were demanding you to have faster cars, and the events were starting to get longer, you would start earning more money. That is how you would expect it. TD2 followed a very similar principle of, as you were getting to the faster championships, you were earning more money per event. The grand prize was also a much bigger lump sum of cash, so that it would help you buy your next house, your next cars for the next championship, etc. With this, it doesn't do that. So I'll talk about the pricing first, before we get too carried away. Yeah, this whole shenanigans with this car rarity bollocks is pointless beyond belief. Like, this, honestly, it needs to be removed, because what's the point of it? It adds nothing, and all it does is just make some cars that really shouldn't be expensive, stupidly expensive. Like this Mini John Cooper Works, right? So it's part of the Daily Drivers class, which is the beginning class. And yet it is 700,000 because it's an epic vehicle. I mean, for one, it's a Mini, it's not epic. Sorry to Mini owners out there. If you got a classic Mini, I'll let it slide. That is an epic vehicle. Modern one? No. Yeah, sure, it's the top spec Mini Cooper. It's the John Cooper Works GP. But it's not 700 grand. Considering a Lotus Emira is 200,000, is 150,000 cheaper. And yet, for some reason, that is an epic car, right? That's 500,000. The Exige Cup is a rare, so it's a lower rarity, and yet it's near $1 million. It's nearly double the price of the Emira. In fact, the Evora is almost 1.3 million. It's that's more expensive than a McLaren MP4. It's for what? It doesn't stop there. It gets worse. This Countach is 10.6 million. The Avaya is only 300,000 more. In fact, the Huracan and the Aventador are both 8 million cheaper. It's more expensive than an old Miura. In fact, the Centenario is half the price of the Countach. What? I'm sorry. The fact that the Bugatti Veyrons are half the price of a pissing Countach, the only ones that are more expensive is the Chiron. That's it. It's pretty much the Chirons or the ultra classic vehicles, because the GT40 Mark 1, 15 million, Jaguar D-Type, 18 million, the Ferrari 250 GTO, 21.5 million. Further than Enzo Ferrari is 12 million. It's 4 million more expensive to get an Enzo than it is the Ferrari FXXK. No, I'm sorry. These pricing is utterly stupid. And there's no other word for it. That special edition 4GT, yeah, you're forking out another 3 million for a livery. I just, no. That is beyond belief at how terrible that is. And then comes a little bit of the worser part. I mean, there you go, there's more 4GTs for you, and again, a couple of extra million. Why they're in there, and yet they're in there? I don't get it. Also, as well, that class, the older 4GT, yeah, that's a straight up lie. It's a DLC vehicle. Yeah, you're welcome. So, yeah, pricing stupid, car list crap. And then we get to the events and the AIs. This is where the fun gets even worse. So I think what I will do is... Oh, that's only 150... Yeah, by the way, this had like 3 million earlier on, like a couple of months ago when this event first came up, this high stakes. Yeah, there was like 3 million in the pot. This is 115,000. Yeah, that's a big drop. The events. So, you've got your pretty simple, typical racing game events. You've got your time trials, you've got your circuit events, you've got your point-to-points. And then for this one, you've got the, what's it classed as? Domination, which is essentially the first to each checkpoint gets a certain amount of points. Simple enough, and certain checkpoints is worth double. Alright, okay, so, it's got simple bread and butter of racing game stuff. That's fine. The problem is that the AIs make these events not fun. The AI are some of the absolute worst I have ever seen. And I've seen bad AIs. People are memeing about the Forza Motorsport AIs. No, they are on several levels above somehow compared to these. These ones are utter crap. Why? Let me explain. If we, let's do, I've got to try and do a dry event. That's, no, that's a little bit too easy. You know what, the tricky thing is that the game doesn't even tell you which events are, like, post-rain. Like, which ones to try. Like, that one tells me stormy. Yeah, cool. No worries. Actually, you know what? No, we will do this one, because this will give a perfect example of some of the balancing issues. It's a little bit of a longer event as well. We'll get onto the rewards in a minute. Yeah, so I got so frustrated I've lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, the AIs. If you're doing an event in the dry, they are basically unfair. Now, even the developers admitted themselves that they accidentally created an AI that that exploits the game quite a bit, and that they are cheating. And all they could say about it was, "Oops." Yeah, thanks. That's really gonna help your reputation, isn't it? Just going, "Oh, are we buggered up? Oh dear." But they are only fast, only unbelievably fast, if it's in the dry, there's no rain, and they are not in a street war event, a clan event. Those terrible things. So this one here, well, it says it was stormy. There we go. So yeah, we'll give a good example of the air difficulty. Now, I will admit, I'm driving the Aventador, which is pretty much one of the supercar meta cars. I think there's like 3. You've got the Lamborghini Aventador, you've got the Lamborghini Huracan, and then because I just went on the brakes there and snapped. Yeah, there you go. I mean, they are in rear-wheel drive cars, and yeah, they're not driving it very well. I'm in a 4-wheel drive car, and it's just absolutely light work. But considering a lot of the events are in the rain, just there you go. Just pick 4-wheel drive, and the AIs become the cakewalk a lot of the time, if they themselves aren't driving a 4-wheel drive car. Sorry, back onto the original point. Yeah. So, for some reason, if you're doing a clan battle event, the AI's difficulty is toned right the way down. For no reason. Like, some of the points were borderline impossible for me to even win. Or a lot of time, even stand a chance of getting a good position. Now, I know what you may be thinking, well, can't you just turn down the difficulty? Aha! No. You can't. There is no physical way to turn down the difficulty of the AI unless you keep throwing races constantly. Because the way they decide for the AI's difficulty to work is that it is based upon your SR, your skill rating, which is sort of a hidden number that fluctuates constantly between events. So if you are even works offline. So if you are constantly winning events against the AIs, they will then increase the difficulty. But if you're struggling, then they will, after a lot of the time, then it will decrease the difficulty, so on and so forth. And it keeps working like that. So it's trying to give you sort of the best races possible, sort of the most intense races possible, by having the AIs resemble, well, pretty much at your skill level. Oops, that was my silly. But here's the thing, it doesn't work, because in the rain, or on the off-road, especially early on, they are utterly terrible. They are just completely hopeless if it is not completely dry. I mean, yeah, sure, I was in a 4-wheel drive car here, and I just DNF'd. The fact I could DNF 6 AIs, yeah, sure, they aren't even the hardest difficulty. But I don't even want to know what the hardest difficulty is if they're already basically cheating on expert difficulty in the dry, and I can't do anything about it. So we've immediately got that issue there. Not only that, the time trials are stupid. They are stupidly easy. This one here, Right, okay, early game, so you expect the difficulty to be a little bit more relaxed. It's a 1 minute 45. You could complete that in less than 1 minute 10. Yeah, it's not hard. This one here, that is a target time of 5 minutes, and I've done it in three. That one, 3 minutes 50, 2 minutes 21. Yeah, no, these time trials are awfully easy. They really, really are. And that's just the stupid, and that's the thing about it. That's the thing, is the difficulty is so all over the place. It's like a roller coaster. It feels like you're gonna get whiplash at just how insanely easy and then insanely difficult the game all of a sudden becomes. There's no, sense of, there's none of that gradual difficulty increase. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's silly. It really is silly. And like I said, that's instant challenges. There's no difficulty for it. So, hang on. Oh, excuse me. So, it is very. Again, it's a silly decision that has no reason to be made. Why can't we just have, it could just be an option. It could just be AI difficulty. Easy, medium, intermediate, expert, master, SR. Or tailored, however you prefer to call it. That could have been absolutely fine. And I'd have no complaint, yeah, sure, I'd say that AIs in the high difficulty are just borderline impossible in some instances, but in other, blah, 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 you can tailor it to your liking. You just can't. I really don't understand. But like I said, the off-road races, they're piss easy anyway. So, the challenge is just, it's there, it's not, it's there, it's not. And, yeah, it is awful. So, let's talk about the server stuff. Yes, the crux of this game's launch. Now, like I said, in the launch, it was unplayable for a lot of people. I was a fortunate one. And even then, I wasn't that fortunate. The amount of server issues I had was beyond belief. The fact that the game launched in the state that it did, yeah, no. This is... it's unforgivable. It really, really is unforgivable. But now I'm speaking about it a couple of months later, and I can probably count the amount of times I've raced against another player on one hand. I've seen at least 30 people, but I've only raced about 4. Because each event has its own little server. It's probably why it caused a lot of the crashes. It's got its own little lobby that, people could join in. So, for people to join in the event that you're doing, they have to do the exact specific event that you're doing at the exact same time that you're searching. There's no normal multiplayer search mode. Like, even the ranked events here. Like, this event, as you can see there, is a ranked one. And these change throughout the day. That's fine enough. I have no issues with that. But what I do have an issue with is that if you are wanting to do a ranked event, you've got to sit and pray that other people want to do the exact same event that you are doing. Otherwise, you're not doing it. Why is there not just a ranked playlist? Like in the fact Need for Speed has it, Forza Horizon 4 had a proper ranked playlist and a normal online playlist. Why is that? Why have we not got that? A normal search area for PvP. Instead, you've got to sit and pray that one person that is in the same region as you. These servers aren't cross-regional. I don't know if they still aren't, or if this game's only really being played by about 8 people. Which, both are very likely. You know, it's I don't get it. The fact that this MMO doesn't even function as an MMO. It's regional multiplayer occasionally. That's really what this is. It's not an MMO, it's an RMO. And no, I just I barely see anyone even cruising around in free roam. You know, you saw that all the time in the previous two, and in this, nothing. Even at the start of the game, because there were that many server issues when the game was at its peak player base. Even then, I only got to connected and only see like 3 people at once. Yeah. Now this has been an utter disaster, and that's the big shame of it, is that there's a good game here, but a lot surrounding it is hopelessly terrible, and I don't know what they can do. Like, this almost feels like it needs a complete overhaul. This feels yet again unfinished, because the ideas are there, and then they just get dropped instantly. Like I said, the whole Streets versus Sharps is completely pointless. Oh yeah, as well, British Performance. Yeah, it looks the exact same as the Asian Performance, except a slightly different color base. And the off-road one is the exact same layout as this, except it's got slightly different colors and probably, you know, I mean, yeah, sure, there's got some bushes and some trees, but it's not really. Wow, that's not that impressive. I went the wrong way, because I do want to buy the Evora. I do quite like it. The annoying thing is, right, the truly frustrating thing for me is I have enjoyed my time. I have had enjoyment of this. You know, I've played the game for getting on now, well, over 50 hours. I've lost it. Here. I've played it for over 50 hours. And now I struggle to even play the game for 10 minutes. I really do. It's because it does not do. It has. There's no real reason to play this over Forza Horizon, The Crew, or Need for Speed. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's got nothing unique, because it's not even a good Test Drive Unlimited. For one, there's no houses. Yes, they're coming in the Season 2 update, but they're not going to work like the houses did in the previous two, because you've got unlimited garage space. And I know that a lot of people are going, oh, boo-hoo, blah-de-blah, but that's what made part of TDU, was this sense of ownership. It was second to none. That was, me mates, when me mate says that TDU 1 and 2 is essentially The Sims, but with cars, he's absolutely right. It's not. It's more than just an open world driving game. It's a lifestyle simulator centered around cars. That is Test Drive Unlimited, and this does nothing like it. Even the oh, thanks, I've got that bloody bug again where I drive down the road, but it doesn't give me it, so I've got to drive the other way. Even the avatar customization is pretty crap. Oh, there goes a level of me frame that I didn't want to use. Thanks. Because the sort of everything you need, like the clothing and things like that, is all done in this one location. So it doesn't even feel. It doesn't even feel that great. It doesn't feel more islandy. Like, if you have a look at the previous two, futuristic visor. You've got. That's all your hats. Glasses. That's it. Shirts. You've got crop tops if you really want. You've got turtlenecks. You've got some t-shirts. And other stuff. You can have this if you want to. Oh, yeah, that clips all over the place. Yeah, the clipping in this is very pronounced and it looks quite funny. I'd, I don't even want to look at that anymore. Yeah, I mean, that's all you get, and then you get skirts if you really want to. You know, you can. This is it. There's no, you know, you've got some cargo pants, but you know, jeans of different color, but there's no. You know, the shops had like their own theming and things like that. You had like the sports shop, then your smart casual shop. This has nothing. It's just nothing, and they've got really crap outfits like this that just look so out of place. You know, that's the annoying thing. And obviously, these I've never used anyway. No, it's just, it doesn't feel right. It's like even the art style of the game doesn't feel. It feels so wrong. Yeah, and I really don't like it. But going back onto the houses stuff, obviously, you know, this is basically your garage where you can show off 6 vehicles to no one. And this is it. You can only pick 6 vehicles you want in here. I never go in here. Reason being, it's pointless. Like, I would have thought at least, like I did in my insight, you know, when there was basically no mentions of houses, I was sort of hoping that even if we had to buy garage spaces, like, you know, we start out with the 6 here, then you had to buy another garage in the Solar Hotel so that you could store more vehicles. That is more Test Drive Unlimited-y. That is what it's more like. But we don't have that in the slightest. It just, again, it feels more just generic. It just feels more like The Crew, Forza Horizon, and Need for Speed. It doesn't feel like Test Drive at all. And I know I bang on about it a lot, but that's the thing. That's what it's called. That's what people are going to expect. And it's nothing like it. It really is nothing like it. So, no. I'll talk about the upgrade, and then I think I've pretty much covered everything that I'd want to. Obviously, I'll then talk in like the closing part. I'll then talk about you know, potential improvements, blah blah blah, because there's a lot. So the upgrades, again, it follows a lot more like the Forza Horizon compared to the simple stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 like we got in TD1 and 2. You know, it's sort of following this more, you know, performance sport, super sport race. Sort of like the tiering system that we got previously, which is, which is completely fine enough. No issues there whatsoever. I'm completely fine with it. And, you know, it does feel a little bit more like Forza, because you are able to customise that little bit more. As you can see there, engine kit, so you can give the cars turbos. I wish you could upgrade superchargers in this, but you can't. You know, you can upgrade the brakes, your suspension, you can go for a bit more off-roady, or, you know, track suspension. Obviously, transmission kit, you can change what type of gearbox you go for, which actually does improve your shifting time, hence why the PI jumps up so much. So, you know, you could go for that as well. You've also got the regular transmission upgrade, obviously lightening the car and giving you more power and torque. You could also aerodynamics, so improving the chassis, improving the aero kit. Tyres, you can have semi-slicks, slicks. On certain cars, you can even have off-roading tyres. Like even some of the four-wheel drive supercars, like the Nissan Skyline, which I think is very cool. And then, you know, you've got here the ECU. On top of that, if you have like the hybrid cars, you can then upgrade the hybrid kit on them. So, you know, that's completely fine enough. No issues from me there. It's a little bit more intricate. And obviously, you can change, if you really want to, you can change the paint scheme on your car. You can add liveries. I don't bother with that. Or if you really want to, you can change the cosmetics. So we've got proper aftermarket rims. It's not just the manufacturer ones, which, you know, is nice to see. It's not a big collection at all. I think there's like 20, but it's something. And, you know, hopefully we get more. So, again, it's something new in the Test Drive series, which is really nice. As well, you can have proper tints onto your windows. And if you decide, oh, I'm not a big fan of the interior that I've got, you can then fully change it. Actually, to be honest, I kind of like the full black leather. I don't know. I'll stick with the suede though. So yeah, it's got a little bit more than the previous two, but yeah, it's a missed potential with this game. Really is. It's missed potential, and it just feels like it's having an identity crisis of it doesn't know what it wants to be. And I think that is the review done. So, to conclude about it all, what would I give TDU Solar Crown a rating out of 10? Now that it has been a couple of months out and I've got over 50 hours in it. I would rate it about 3. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of this game. It annoys me too much with all the really bad decisions. It doesn't really seem to have any form of focus whatsoever. Because especially as well, as I've just remembered I haven't talked about, the rewards for the events. These are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Now, obviously, when you get to like level 20, I think it is, you do get a little bit more bonus cash. Good thing I checked. I know I'm muted anyway, but I'm not taking any risks. At level 20, you do get a little bit of bonus cash to, try and sort of help you a little bit in getting some of the more expensive cars, especially as some of the events that you unlock require you to... I mean, this one's the perfect example, and so is this one. This requires you to get the Corvette and the AMG GTR. I did have to look. And both of them are 1.7 million. Now, let's say for that event you pick... Let's say you pick the AMG, and you realise that you don't like the AMG. It's a little bit too leery or something like that, and, it's really struggling against the Corvette. So you think, right, okay, what I'll do, I'll sell the AMG, so then I can work, so I've got a good chunk of my money back, so that I can then go and get the Corvette. You can't sell cars in this game. Remember when a lot of people complain about not being able to sell cars in Forza? I was one of them. Yeah, you can't even do that in this game either. And with some of the prices of the cars and how bad the balancing is, it is punishment if you pick the car that turns out to not be good. It's more than just a punch in the gut. It's a stab in the heart, because you can spend hours grinding up to get that one car so you complete this one event, realise the car's terrible, and you've just got to suffer. And then you've got to work all over again to get the other car that you may not even like. But, you've got to get to the other car that you only want to use for that one event, and then you want to sell it so that you can work towards someone else, but you can't do that. And then this event here, the Bugattis or the Koenigseggs. So for that event, it requires you to have basically 4.4 million just to do that one event. All for not even 20,000 from pure event reward alone. Yes, of course, you got difficulty and then being over level 20 and first win the day, but for not even 20 grand, that is a right piss take. The only events that give you more money than standard is the Crown Jewel events. And half the time, these aren't even worth it. Considering this one, I don't think this one took 2, but right, okay, that one was 3 minutes. And that gets you 30 grand. And then there were other events here that take 3 minutes. And you get half the money. How the hell did they work that out? The fact that there's no money increase depending on how long the event is, or how late into the game you've had to do. You had to get to that point to unlock that event. You would expect that you get more money, but you don't. the event length pretty much has bollocks all to how much money you get, unless it's the crown jewel. Really? That's it? That's completely stupid. And that needs to be looked at. It doesn't have to be 3-minute event gets you 90 grand. It doesn't have to be that. But more than 15 on every event that takes more than 3 minutes at the minimum. Because, I'm sorry, but that being the only event that lasts between 3 to 4 minutes, giving you over 30k? No. No, I'm sorry. Absolutely not. That should be changed. So, what else should be changed? The classes. The classes need an overhaul. The balancing, like I said, is all over the place. Not only that as well, the classic cars in this are horrific. Horrific in terms of competitiveness. Because, because obviously a lot of them are the old V-wheel drive stuff, so they're not going to have as good handling as a lot of the modern stuff. So they just become undrivable, especially when it goes in the rain. And I don't care about the high stakes. Leave me alone. Go away. No, piss off. So, so you've got these cars. I mean, cool, yeah. Absolutely fantastic to see. But these should not be in the same class as some of the other supercars and whatnot. Like this Cobra Daytona, sure, is a supercar for the time. Back in 1960s, that is absolutely a supercar. But in no way is that going to be competitive with the Lamborghini Huracan and the Aventador in this game. It's not. So, this immediately means that, if you ask me, we should have a classics class, like we did in TDU2. We should have, and it doesn't have to be very extreme. It doesn't have to be all classic cars lumped into one. It can just be classic dailies, classic supers, classic Grand Tourers. And that would be perfect. That would genuinely, if you ask me, be enough. Because, then they could sort of balance them out within themselves. And it would sort out a lot of the issues with the classics class. With the classic cars, sorry. Because they are just absolutely horrific in terms of balancing. You're never going to use them unless you're just memeing. And this is when someone actually, points out the fact that the Daytona Coupe, something like that, is actually meta. But yeah, no, so I would immediately change the classes. Next thing I would change is I would completely overhaul the AIs. I would add a proper difficulty selector. Make the dynamic difficulty still a thing, but add the beginner, intermediate, expert and master as their own separate difficulty. That should just be a given. Fix the prices on some of the cars. Fix the rewards that you get on events. And the car list, it needs serious improvement. And also fix the landing physics. Yeah, so there's basically... Now that I've sort of said all of that at the end, my 3 of the 10, I think that seems about right for me. So, if someone then asked me, I want to play this game, how much should I spend? My question to you would be this. Are you looking for this game to feel like Test Drive? Are you wanting, like, another Test Drive game? Then my answer is don't even bother at this. Don't even look at this, because this is not a good test drive in the slightest. It does nothing test drivey. Genuinely, does nothing test driver limitedy. If you are then looking just for another open world driving game experience, then I would only spend about 20 quid. Because it doesn't really have anything going for it that the other competition in this series doesn't already do. And there we go. That's the biggest killer of TDU. Anything this can do, others can do better. And there we go. That is finally my review of Soul the Crown done. It has taken numerous attempts. I'm fairly happy with this one. This will be the end result, and I've been going for over an hour. Oh god. Yeah. This... Oh. I really struggle now to go back on this game consistently. Especially as the Crew Motorfest just had its recent update, I'm jumping back on that a lot more than this. So, this is it, that's the end. I do hope you enjoyed. Any and all feedback is of course appreciated. Let me know your thoughts about this game. Were you one of the unfortunate ones that could never get the game working even though you spent money getting the pre-order, in which case I am sorry on your behalf, because that was absolutely silly how this game launched. Yeah, I'm just... No, this is not it. However, that is it from me and my slightly ill voice. Take care, and ciao for now.